Oh, yeah? I got something you need.
Yeah. Call this meeting order. I ask Supervisor Molino to lead us to the pledge.
It's an honor.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody. I'll ask the clerk to do the roll call.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Mayday?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Ms. Gilligan? Here. Ms. Turner? Here. Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mr. Patchit?
Here.
Mr. Drossy?
Here.
Mr. Bean?
Here.
Mr. Cressida?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. McGowan? Mr. Strainer?
Here.
Mr. Etu?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Runyon?
Here.
Chairman Garrity?
Here.
Quorum is established.
First item of business, approve the minutes of the October 18th regular board meeting and November 1st special board meeting. Anybody want to make that motion? Supervisor Etu, second by Supervisor Molino. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Here, anybody opposed? Okay, next, I'd like to talk a little bit about Cornell Cooperative Extension Conservationist of the Year. This year, it's Erica Patton from the town of Johnsburg. The first Conservation of the Year award is given to a person who has contributed significantly to Warren County conservation through conservation, wildlife education, hunter education, and or habitat conservation for fisheries and wildlife in Warren County. This award is being presented to Erica Patton. And I'm going to ask that John Bull from 4-H and Cornell say a few words.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. First, I'd like to thank all the supervisors for your work on the budget. I know it's not an easy time of year for you, and I know it's a thankless job. So thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm sure all of the residents do as well. But I'm actually going to kind of take my hat off as the executive director, and this award is actually from the Warren County Conservation Council, of which I am a member. And the Warren County Conservation Council this year decided one of our members, Erica Patton, is leaving the area. Unfortunately, she's moving to New Mexico, where she's originally from. And she's been here for about 2 decades, maybe a little bit longer, raising her son, Scotty. If you don't know Scotty, he is a very physical, active individual, graduated from Johnsburg last year and just graduated last week from the basic for Air Force. So unfortunately, Erica is unable to be here today because she used all of her remaining vacation time to attend that, which obviously that's a higher priority. But the Conservationist of the Year, as Kevin pointed out, is essentially to recognize her for her work in forming the Johnsburg Junior Outdoor Club, which has had dozens and dozens of youth participate over more than a decade of existence in archery, trap, wildlife education, wildlife identification, and general conservation programs. She's also run a program called YHEC, which is the Youth Hunter Education Challenge. That is a program based in the NRA, but it is focused on ethical hunting skills. It is learning about shot placement. Is this shot safe? Is this shot ethical to take? It is also about wildlife identification, as well as what is the role of hunters in conservation. So there's wildlife ID components. There's actually shooting trap, shooting 3-dimensional archery, and then is this shot safe? A lot of safety focused. She's run that for about a dozen years. And that program was never held here in this region until she came here and started it. Additionally, she helped start the Johnsburg High School Trap Club, High School Clays, I think they actually call it, but they shoot trap. And that is one of about 13 schools that's now participating in that club, as well as helping support the Johnsburg archery team as well. Okay. So over the course of a decade, she's probably impacted hundreds of youth. In addition, she's also a hunter education instructor who helps people like myself run our courses throughout the year. So we just wanted to acknowledge her before she left for that decade plus of service to one of our communities and to conservation in general. So this is a certificate of conservation of the year. This is the first time we've offered this, and we felt it was appropriate that she be our first recipient. So thank you. Have a great day. Good luck with the budget.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing on local law number 7 of 2024, which I'll ask the clerk to please read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a proposed local law number 7 for the year 2024, entitled "A Local Law Adopting and Ratifying Certain Employee Benefits for County Employees Outside Various Bargaining Units." Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on October 18th, 2024, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors on November 15th, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the Supervisors' Rooms at the Warren County Municipal Center, located at 1340 State Route 9, Queensbury, New York, at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law number 7 for the year 2024 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Does anybody from the public wish to address the board on this local law? Please step forward. Do any of the supervisors have any question about this local law? We'll leave this open for a few minutes and we'll move on to our second hearing. And I'll ask the clerk to read the notice of this one. It's on the sewer district.
The Warren County Sewer District Industrial Park has completed its annual assessment of the cost of the increase and improvement of facilities apportioned to the Warren County Sewer District by reason of the intermunicipal agreement for South Queensbury, Queensbury Avenue Sanitary Sewer District. A benefit to tax roll for 2025 has been completed, showing the annual assessment of the lots and parcels of land in the Warren County Sewer District in proportion to the benefit which each lot or parcel will derive therefrom. The assessment roll describes each lot or parcel of land in such a manner that it may be ascertained and identified, and shows the name or names of the reputed owner or owners thereof, together with the aggregate amount of assessment levied upon each lot or parcel of land. A copy of said assessment roll is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the below stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website. Pursuant to resolution number 351 of 2024, adopted by the Warren County Board of Supervisors at their meeting on October 18th, 2023, a public hearing will be held by the Warren County Board of Supervisors at the Supervisors Meeting Room in the Warren County Municipal Center, located at 1340 State Route 9, Queensbury, New York, on the 15th day of November 2024 at 10 a.m., at which time and place said Board of Supervisors will hear and consider any objections that may be made to the assessment roll.
Okay. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on this public hearing on the sewer district? Anybody from the board wish to comment on the sewer district? Being none. I'll declare the first public hearing closed if there's no comments on local law number 7. We'll close that one. On the sewer district, I know it's a great topic. Anybody wish to comment on the sewer district? You declare that one closed also. Next, I'll ask the clerk to read the final public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that the budget officer of the County of Warren has prepared and filed a proposed budget for the fiscal year 2025, and that the Board of Supervisors will meet in the Supervisors' Rooms at the Warren County Municipal Center located at 1340 State Route 9, Queensbury, New York, on the 15th day of November 2024 at 10 a.m. for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the tentative budget of the County of Warren for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025, and that any such person may be heard in favor of or against the tentative budget as compiled for or against items therein contained. Copies of said tentative budget are available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address, and may be viewed on the Warren County website. Pursuant to section 359 of county law, the maximum salaries that may be affixed and payable during the fiscal year 2025 to members of the Board of Supervisors and to the chairman thereof are hereby specified as follows. Members of the Board of Supervisors, $26,250 each. Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, $24,366. Notice is further given that this following is a summary of the tentative budget of Warren County for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025. Gross appropriations of $207,149,893, less the amount of $154,034,157, which includes interfund revenues and surplus appropriated, but does not include sales tax credit, leaving a balance of $53,115,736 to be raised by taxation.
Open this public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on the county budget?
Wow.
Seeing none, do any supervisors wish to comment on the county budget? Supervisor McGowan.
This is not privilege of the floor, correct? This is just to discuss.
This is a comment on the public hearing for the county budget.
All right.
Seeing nobody wishes to comment, I will close that public hearing. Now we'll open up the privilege for public comment on any part of the meeting. Does anybody have anything they wish to speak to the board about this morning before we get into our, please step up, state your name and residence, please.
Hi, thank you very much for the time to speak this morning. I appreciate it. My name is Lori Ream. I reside in Bolton Landing, New York. And I am in fact a partner in the 80K excursions business, which is also located in Bolton Landing, New York. I understand that you're being asked to review and reapprove the ARPA funding that was secured in 2022 due to the perception of a supervisor at the time of the vote being under a conflict of interest. As a matter of law, the supervisor had no conflict of interest at the time of our application or at the time of the Adirondack excursion ARPA votes. We did have him do some work for us at least a year prior to our applying for the ARPA grant in 2022. This was an urgent situation of utmost importance to be completed prior to our inspection we had coming up to allow us to finally operate. He is a contractor and we are a boat business. We had no intention of asking for his help again. Unfortunately, after we had received the grant in 2022, we had another important repair service that would have delayed our business from operating for the season. We'd again experienced difficulty finding a mechanic, or even more difficulty getting them to agree to service a public vessel due to the liability concerns after the Ethan Allen tragedy. Time was of the essence again, so we reached out to the supervisor to evaluate the situation as he knew the boat, and luckily he was able to repair what we needed. This in no way was solicited by the supervisor. We have since found a professional boat team that services our charter on a regular basis, so we don't anticipate a further need. We submitted all invoices that meet our ARPA guidelines, including the one for his work. We have complied with all information asked, honored all the application and filing regulations, and we will have everything completed by the end of the year. We've been told by numerous people in this building that we haven't done anything wrong, so I'm still a little confused as to why I'm here. I understand how some can perceive things less than honorably, but I know beyond a doubt that everyone involved acted in good faith without any malicious intent or conspiracy to personally benefit. And as a matter of law, the supervisor had no conflict of interest at the time of the 80 Adirondack excursions ARPA votes. I kindly ask you to consider this when making the decision to reapprove our grants. And I thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address? Sure, come up, please.
Morning. Thank you for your attention. The elections are over, but the climate crisis is not. We are facing the gravest of futures, and we cannot look away. I'm Diane Collins, a climate activist from Glens Falls, and one of the co-founders of North Country Climate Action. Lisa Adamson and I are here today as their climate action team. Yes, that's CAT. We both have tuxedo cats that we love. And we want to work cooperatively with Warren County. Some of you may recognize me from the Zero Waste Warren County citizen advocacy group that worked very successfully with the Public Works Committee on modernizing town transfer stations and shifting the solid waste systems of your towns to earn revenues instead of paying high costs. Lisa and I want to work with the Warren County Environmental Concerns Committee in much the same way to align our concerns and partner with committee members on climate issues and actions. We come here today as the Environmental Committee will not be meeting until January, and we felt the urgency to get started, and we'll be back with you all periodically. Last year, I met with the Environmental Committee about my wish for Warren County to recommend to the public and carry out in the county system climate mitigating actions. Afterwards, I asked several committee members on the committee who kept track of New York State climate bills. The answer was no one. Lisa and I would like to offer up to the committee's attention just that, to pay attention to the state bills that we should be aware of. We would also share with the committee actions being taken by the two growing North Country Climate Action groups, our group, North Country Earth Action, and Third Action, Upstate New York. Third Act, as you may know, was founded by Bill McKibben, the famous environmentalist and climate activist who spent time living in our Adirondacks. Third Act reaches out to seniors wanting to make a difference with community action. We want our work with you to add to your awareness of local climate actions our citizens are taking and the New York State bills addressing climate change. We want you to have that information to take back to your towns and your concerned citizens. We look forward to working with the Environmental Concerns Committee.
Thank you.
Lisa Adamson. I live on Assembly Point in the town of Queensbury. Thank you very much for your time to let us present what we think we might have to offer to the Board of Supervisors or to Warren County in terms of Diane's and my experience. We're here because, as Diane said, we're very concerned about climate acceleration globally and the probability that states are going to have to take on much more of the responsibility of climate legislation and action. On an encouraging note, I was on a Zoom the other day with the people in Azerbaijan. I was just listening, but the COP29 Zoom, and heard a statistic that said 60% of climate mitigation and adaptation could be done on a subnational level. I had never heard that term before, but what it indicates to me is that states in this country can take on a lot of the responsibility for what needs to be done. Diane and I are connected, as she said, on various levels to climate awareness in this extended area. I'm the chair of the Assembly Point Water Quality Coalition that some of you know well and what we've done there. Diane's and my experience ranges from grassroots. We were co-founders of the North Country Earth Action team, which is an action and response team on the grassroots level. We both have either sat or do sit on the municipal and the county climate smart community and clean energy community committees. I'm there on that committee with John, and it's a NYSERDA-based, DEC-based incentivized program. And we also, Diane and I are aware of, we try to track the climate bills that are either pending or upcoming. And so we feel we have an exposure on a multi-tiered level to perhaps hope that there'll be collaboration from grassroots through town, through county, up to state. So what we're offering is to come occasionally or come regularly here and tell you what we're hearing, boots on the ground, ears on the ground, our ears on the ground, their boots on the ground. And what we're aware of is going on in Albany legislatively. Just as a note, the town of Queensbury just received, after a number of years working with the Climate Smart Community, Clean Energy Community teams, a $200,000 financial award. And this is what can happen through these statewide CSC committees. And we got that in part from replacing the town's Cobra streetlights with LED lights. And what we hope to, and for our campaigns with HVAC, solar, and EV outreach to the community. We hope to be able to put in very soon a reuse shed at the Ridge Street Transfer Station and to use some of those monies for electric landscaping. The money should be used for renewable projects. And Diane and I are headed to Albany. There's going to be a lot of action in Albany in December, trying to encourage the governor to pass, for example, to sign the climate bill, the Superfund bill that's been on her desk since June, and to also encourage her to include in her State of the State address and her budget a renewal of the New York State Heat Act, which will enable residents and Warren County residents to more easily install renewables and, electrify their heating systems, and to encourage the governor to keep accelerating climate legislation that's going to support the CLCPA. So hopefully you can use us from time to time as just non-expert reporters of what we're hearing and what we're aware of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board? You have some?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just want to commend Ms. Collins and Ms. Adamson for the partnership that you provided to the county. Going all the way back now to our hiring a recycling and solid waste coordinator, which really allowed, I think, us to move forward with a couple of different fronts, and up into and including the recent award of the takeover of the county of recycling at the transfer stations, which represents significant savings to our municipalities, but also it's good for the environment. And it hasn't ended there. Just for the board members may not be aware, we have a working group between Mr. Hages's department and our friends in the private sector, and they're looking at improved markets for our recyclables, improved ways of marketing our recyclables, which again is important from a revenue point of view, but also important in terms of the environment. And last but not least, working toward the hopefully the eventual removal of green waste from our waste stream, and which would again not only be excellent for the environment, but would represent huge savings to our residents. So I think you represent the very best of public-private partnership. Thank you.
Anybody else? Supervisor McGowan.
I too will comment on Supervisor Conover's thankfulness. And I remember sitting down at the table, we've come a long ways. It's been hard work and determination that have, brought the county to where we are. And Supervisor Conover hit all the points of the positive this was brought out. Thank you and the working group for getting us to this point. I also have a statement that I've also prepared that I would like to read while we're in public comment, because I wanted to make sure that I was able to make a comment on the record with respect to the proposal of raises for the members of the Board of Supervisors, including 8 supervisors and stipends associated with the budget officer and the chair of the board. I have prepared a statement that I will read briefly for the privilege of the floor. I think it's important that the people in Queensbury and Warren County are very clear on who supports this and who does not, and I do not. First off, I am unclear how each person sitting at this table in this room can ethically and morally vote on their own raises. Isn't it true that this proposed $6,300 is directly dollars being paid to each person sitting at this table? All right. It wasn't too long ago that I was held at a very different standard for work that I'd be doing in the future for ARPA recipients, which I did not have a crystal ball to predict, but that didn't matter. So here we now sit voting to line our pockets and not just with the cost of living increase. It's much more than that. I wonder, will the Board of Ethics and this board decide to publicly censor me again for this raise, taking money that will directly benefit me? I'm really unclear how everyone will vote, not recuse, not abstain, but will even know, even how this was proposed to the board, giving our difficult year, as we have had heard about the facts that we are breaking the tax cap. In fact, I can imagine that Mike Wild will once again attempt to use this raise threatening another ethics board complaint and taking up his own personal investigation on this $6,000 plus raise that you will be voting for, despite me being on the record for feeling incredibly uncomfortable that the day after the budget meeting, our leadership team spoke and gave a state of county whereby they said they will have to look again at raising the sales tax. Also, as reported by the Post-Star. So why on earth are we leading with such a poor example? This is a public service. This is not, nor has it ever been, a full-time job. Saratoga County is almost 4 times the size of ours. Even with stipends for positions, they are paid less than this board wants to pay themselves. We get the tentative budget proposal a few days before the vote, and even then, all right, worse, the morning of the vote for the tentative budget, we get hit with a personal request sheet for raises that morning. I look back at last year, I have looked back at last year and at least got this sheet just about a week before the budget meeting on 10/26 to be exact. So much for time to prepare and ask questions for this year. So much for being the voice of the people. Clearly, this is done by design, but our community should know the facts. Lastly, are you doing it in a year that you are all running for office? This is wrong. If you want to propose an increase, propose it for the next year's board. But voting to give ourselves money, well, I suspect Mike Weil will hold you all at the same standard he held me at with an investigation to the Board of Ethics complaint.
Let's not bring other supervisors' names in.
This is public comment. I believe I am allowed to say what I need to say.
Not gonna bring other supervisors' names into it. Continue.
Am I allowed to speak in public comment? Do I need to stand up at the podium?
We're letting you speak.
I'm speaking to the attorney.
You can speak at public, any supervisor can speak at public comment. I defer to the rules, Robert's rules of whether supervisors mention other supervisors by name.
But actually, the public can get up and do it and do whatever they want.
The supervisor from the town of Queensberry is a supervisor and sitting at a supervisor's seat and speaking in his role of privilege of the floor as a supervisor representing the town of Queensberry.
Oh, so I should have got up to the podium and represented myself just in town of Queensbury? Is that, I'm just asking, I'm just confused. I'd like to follow the rules. So I guess, can you, so how can we operate and look at our constituents in the eyes and say, do you deserve a 20-30% raise? And by the way, are we going to raise taxes? And by the way, we're going to have to raise taxes. You can't say one thing in the public and do another. It seems like another smoke and screen to me. I also, at the time, had specific questions on some other ones, especially 447. The resolution 447 compared to the personal request worksheet handed out. So I'll wait for that at that time. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may comment, and it's not really worth the effort to go through this. The supervisor to my right obviously has some type of issue with me. I just want to clarify that I did not file any ethics complaints. As a matter of fact, when I first became aware of this ethics issue, I sat there and I mentioned to the supervisor to my right that it was a problem and he should address it. And his comment, I'll paraphrase, but he didn't care. So I'm not sure why I'm in the middle of this. But I stand by my record and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to start with the chairman's report. On October 18th, attended the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the 22nd. I attended committee meetings, criminal justice, public safety, health services, tourism, and tax. 23rd, attended committee meetings, economic growth and development, county facilities, public works. 24th, I went to the inter-county meeting in Essex County where we did a trip to Fort Ticonderoga with John Teflon, Frank Thomas, and I believe Gene Merlino was with us. And we had a good tour of the fort, learned a lot about history. The 29th, I attended Oxy Tax and Tourism Committee meeting again, legislative and rules, personnel, administration, higher education, finance, and budget committee meetings. On October 30th, I took part in an ARCC, that's the Regional Chamber of Commerce panel discussion forum at Crandall Public Library with our tourism director, John Teflon and Frank Thomas, where we discussed to the chamber members the condition of Warren County. We also answered questions asked by the chamber members. And I think we were very well received by the public. On November 1st, I attended a special meeting of Board of Supervisors where the tentative budget was presented by Budget Officer Frank Thompson. November 12th, I attended the Warren County Comprehensive Plan workshop with Lavella and Mr. E2 and some of the planning group. On November 14th, which was yesterday, I attended APA board meeting in Raybrook. I went up there to represent Warren County and the town of Warrensburg on behalf of Barton's Mines, and I'm happy to say that the Barton's Mines project was approved yesterday by the APA, and that's my report. So, Supervisor Molina, you want to start?
Mr. Chairman, would you give me an opportunity to make a comment before I do my report? Because you started yours quicker than I had my hand up.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry.
I've been sitting on this board for 19 years. And you can look back at any record that's being kept in this county. I have not taken insurance. I have not put in a stipend for gas in all those years. There's nothing I take extra. This raise, I think, is a fair raise because over many, many years, this board never got raises. And the one thing that I always kind of complain about is that when I started here, as the years went by, every new supervisor got the same amount of money like I got this year. The new supervisors got it. So I just don't agree with the losing of this raise. I think it's well worth it. We do all spend a lot of time here. We all spend time coming, but I take no health insurance, no money for gas. So I feel that raise for the next person that's going to sit in this seat is well worth it. Thank you. All right, Chairman of Tourism, we're working on the winter stuff right now. We're getting prepared. We're getting it out. And we have a good group down there and they're really working hard. On OCTAX, we're still working on, as you all know, we had the OCTAX meeting to give out OCTAX money. We had 1,400,000 in requests. We had 700,000 in the budget. We're working on restoring more of that money on the budget, but we're still working on giving out the money for OCTAX. We're trying to come up with new formulas. We're trying to get this under control, and we're working hard on it. That's my report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you. The Legislative Rules and Governmental Operations Committee met on October 29th. We have 4 resolutions coming out of committee and going to you today. That's 408, which is a home rule request by Warren County to amend section 261(1)(g) of the tax law based on Warren County being a member of the Capital District Transportation District. 409 is a home rule request by Warren County for an extension to the law authorizing and empowering the County of Warren to impose an additional mortgage recording tax. 410, approving revisions to the purchasing policy for Warren County, updating them and making them better in accord with New York State law. And 411 is approving revisions to the Warren County Freedom of Information Law, again, making them in accord with state law. And that's it from the committee. Thank you.
Supervisor Wild, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Personnel, administration and higher education met on the 29th of October. There's 10 resolutions before the board today. 423 through 430, 446, and 447. I'm just going to call out a couple that are roll call votes. 423 is basically patrol sergeant for the sheriff's department. It's a transitional role. 428 and essentially 430 benefits for out of unit. We're just doing some housekeeping. And 446 is adopting the salary plan for 2025. If there's any questions on the other resolutions, I'll be glad to add some more detail later. But that's my report for today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor McGowan, any report?
No, no,
Supervisor Strainer,
No report.
Supervisor Etu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On October 23rd, the Economic Growth and Development Committee met. Just one resolution today before us, 407, ratifying the actions of the Chair of the Board of Supervisors and executing an application to the United States Department of Labor for increasing viable childcare options through workforce development in Warren and Washington Counties grant program funding. I'd also say we're in the home stretch of our draft comprehensive plan. We're within budget. Public workshops are at SUNY Adirondack on Monday and then Chester on Thursday, both 6 to 7:30. Both have pizza. Kudos to the Planning and Community Development Department and the lead consulting team from Labella on all their leadership during this process. Thank you.
Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance and Budget met on October 29th. We have 17 resolutions before the board today. Resolution 399 is the monthly supplemental appropriations for 3 departments, Board of Elections, Office of Emergency Services, and Sheriff. Resolution 400 amends the Warren County budget for 2024, also for 4 departments, Office of Community Services, Planning, and the Sheriff and Public. What I got here, I can read it. Anyways, there's 4 of them. Resolution 431 is a resolution to rescind Resolution 513 of 2022, awarding $30,000 of ARPA funds to Adirondack Excursions LLC. This amends the 2022 budget. 432 reauthorizes disbursement of $30,000 in ARPA funds to the Adirondack Excursions LLC, amending the 2024 county budget. Resolution 433 is a resolution to rescind Resolution 595 of 2022, which authorized $19,000 of ARPA funds to the Adirondack Excursions. This also amends the 2022 county budget. 434 establishes capital project H437, boardroom renovations, and advances $400,000 in ARPA funds from A691 deferred revenues. Resolution 435 establishes capital project 438, municipal center roof repairs, and transfers $100,000 again from A691 deferred revenues, ARPA funding. 436 decreases capital project H424, Joseph B. Warren capital project, in the amount of $15,780.92 and return the funding to the source, which is ARPA dollars. Resolution 437 amends Resolution 175 of 2024, which authorized reallocation of unobligated ARPA funding for use by Warren County. And it will be allocated to H 437 boardroom, H 438 municipal roof repairs, Sheriff Marine vessels, Palisades Road culvert project replacement, Middleton Bridge demo, Peaceful Valley Road project, and Diamond Point Road project. 438 authorizes an increase to the assigned sexual abuse lawsuits fund balance A 918 from code 6610-2680 social services insurance recoveries in the amount of $900,000. 439 authorizes reappropriation of funds from occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget in the amount of $125,000. And this is to fund the Adirondack Sports for the 2023 World University Game snowboard competition. Resolution 440 appropriates $20,000 also from the occupancy tax reserve to fund an agreement between the Wilderness Property Management Incorporated and the Planning Department for consulting services. 441 appropriates $150,000 of occupancy tax reserve to the Village of Lake George for the lease of light displays. Resolution 442 appropriates $3,664.72 from the general fund balance to the Office of Emergency Services to fund the cost of the local share of a grant program for the hazard mitigation program. Resolution 444 is adopting the budget for fiscal year 2025. 445 is making appropriations for the conduct of county government for 2025. And the last one, 448, is levying a tax to the city of Glens Falls, property tax. That's my report.
Okay. Supervisor Runyon,
No report. Thank you.
Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Works resolutions are in your packet. They're represented by resolution 412 through 418. 413 through 17 are resolutions to allow snowmobile substations to operate. And the 418 is the plan that we have for organics management. I ask you to take a look at it. It is just voluminous and loaded with all kinds of data, important data that talks about the volume of material, the transport of material, the disposal of material. It includes attitudinal surveys that were completed in terms of why people do or don't do certain things. It's something that I certainly would ask all of you to at least peruse and take a look at. That being said, needless to say, a lot of the data, a lot of the factors in here are constantly changing, up or down. And so this is very much a work in progress. And stay tuned. We would like to step out by doing a pilot initially, just so we could, you know, the old saying, walk before you run, and so that we could test some of our thinking in terms of the removal of green waste from our waste stream. And resolution 412 at the minimum asks that public works vehicles, especially tandems, be considered emergency vehicles, are removed from the requirements of existing law. I don't know how many of you have ordered tandem truck recently. We just got one, or about to get one, that we ordered 3 years ago. The cost of which now is with plow blade and whatever, can range from $260,000 to $300,000. So it's the trend line on this is not good. It's just not good. And so we need to have some
We're asking for some relief as it relates to that. And that concludes my report.
Supervisor Mayday,
No report.
Supervisor Diamond,
No report.
Supervisor Gilligan,
No report.
Supervisor Turner.
I just wanted to say that last evening I attended the Lake George Regional Chamber of Commerce annual dinner along with other supervisors sitting in this room. And I also had the privilege of introducing the recipient of their Sapphire Award for this year. So I want to publicly announce Dan Davies as that recipient of Davies and Davies Real Estate, and congratulations to him.
Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. County Facilities met on October 23rd. There are two resolutions in your packet, 401 and 402. They're fairly mundane, self-explanatory, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any regarding that. Additionally, we discussed a number of things, and we continue to discuss the status of the possible creation of a regional morgue, and there'll be more to follow on that down the road. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. The Human Services Committee did not have a meeting during the month of October. The next meeting of the Human Services Committee will be this coming Tuesday, November 19th, on or about 10:15. We'll be hearing from the Department of Social Services and the Youth Bureau in the committee room. Cornell Cooperative Extension will hold their monthly meeting on Monday, November 25th at 6 p.m. At their facilities in Warrensburg. And I will make some comments in announcements later on. Thank you.
Supervisor Paget.
No report.
Supervisor Drossy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Criminal Justice, Public Safety and Emergency Services Committee met on October 22nd. All members of the committee were present and appreciated. We move resolutions 403 through 406 today for your consideration. Our next meeting is this coming Tuesday, 11/19 at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Supervisor Bean.
No report.
Supervisor Cressida.
No report. Thank you.
Okay, report of County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Merlino discussed it. The 21st of October, we had our session occupancy tax, and we've revised the procedures a little bit this year. It's a work in progress. We appreciate your patience. All the supervisors on the committee have given us feedback now, and we take all that feedback into account. And again, we appreciate your patience. Again, it's a work in progress. We'll make some modifications coming up next year. There were committee meetings, 22, 23 October. 23rd of October, we had a kickoff meeting to discuss, to get ready for our collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters that will start in December. And we'll keep you updated on that. As the chairman mentioned, 24th of October, inter-county at Fort Ticonderoga, 29th of October, committee meetings. The chairman also mentioned the State of the County ARCC presentation, and our budget meeting on the 1st of November. On the 5th of November, it's Election Day. I would like to give a shout out to our Board of Elections. They always conduct these elections with the utmost professionalism, courtesy, and patience. And there was a great effort this election cycle. 12th of November, we had a quarterly department heads meeting. We discussed the budget, the comprehensive plan that Supervisor Etu has discussed very comprehensively, as well as other miscellaneous topics. Your department heads are working very diligently to provide all the services this county needs, and they're doing a great job with that. Employee anniversary dates. Jeremy Scrime, IT, 20 years. Connie Hawk, Office for the Aging, 24 years. Tina Murray, Social Services, 25 years. Laura Lane, DPW, actually at the Fish Hatchery, 25 years. Stephanie Keene, Probation, 27 years. Jerry Bellinger, Countryside, 27 years. Theodore Little, Fire prevention, 28 years. Tamara Barlow, DPW, 28 years. Janelle Jones, public health, 30 years. Linda Ellis, Sheriff's Department, 31 years, and Paul Bachman, medical exam and coroners, 34 years. Concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Report of county attorney.
Good morning. I wanted to start with clarifying and just providing a legal statement on the code of ethics for the entire Board of Supervisors so that there's no misunderstandings or misperceptions from a legal perspective. And under the code of ethics that was enacted as resolution 353 of 2022, section 9 addresses when the code's prohibitions on the use of an officer's municipal position, disclosure requirements, and requirements relating to recusal and abstention do not apply. And the first listed reason when those sections of the Code of Ethics do not apply specifically for a member of the Board of Supervisors is when they're, quote, adoption of Warren County's annual budget, end quote. So I don't want any supervisors to have a misapprehension that there's a legal ethical prohibition upon any supervisor from exercising their vote on the annual budget. And this does not make any comment or opinion on the political discussion on any issue in the budget. Last month and this month coming up, our office is strongly focusing in on a review of county policies to do an annual update on many, and in some cases to fill in gaps where policies are needed and are not currently in place. About 5 of them are in the packet for today, and there'll be should be 5 more that'll go through committee for the December board meeting. The overarching goal is to try to make sure our policies are keeping up with any changes in state law, first and foremost. But secondly, also ensuring that our policies over the years haven't deviated away from the requirements of state law. So some of the policies like the FOIL policy, which is in the packet today, is in the packet because of a recent statutory change in the law. And there'll be more like that you'll see in the committee meetings going into next month as well. We are focusing also on reworking and rewriting updates on the local law for occupancy tax. We've been working closely with the treasurer's office on that as well as enforcement over the last month. And there has been no new changes or updates in the litigation posture for Warren County in the past month. Subject to any questions that the supervisors have, that's my report for the month.
Thank you. Reading of resolutions.
Communication?
Hmm?
You reading a communication first?
Oh, that's my communication.
We have the county auditor's October 2024 report of real property tax corrections. The basic financial statements, required supplementary information, supplemental information, and federal awards information for the year ended December 31, 2021 from Drescher and Malecki, and the independent auditors reports. Those are the black bound books that are on your desk, and the independent auditors report are included inside. We have a resignation letter from Anne Marie Scheidegger from the Board of Ethics. Town of Lake George, notice of public hearing for several site plan review matters. And from Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth, we have a notice of public hearing for the North Creek, New York Resort Weekender Hospitality Project. Application for real property tax exemption for Glens Falls Ventures. And application for real property tax exemption from Adirondack Radiology Associates. And finally, the October newsletter from the Family Service Association of Glens Falls.
Okay. And we'll go to, excuse me, reading of resolutions.
The estimate of sales tax, mortgage tax report, and resolution numbers 399 through 448 were posted to the Warren County website and distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors on Wednesday, November 6th. Proclamation numbers 40 through 44, revised resolution number 437, and floor resolution numbers 1 and 2 were posted to the Warren County website and distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, November 12th. The proclamations before you are number 40, Apprenticeship Week, number 41, Alzheimer's Awareness Month, number 42, Diabetes Awareness Month, number 43, Home Care and Hospice Month, and number 44, Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. A motion is needed to bring floor resolution number 1 to the floor.
Somebody want to make a motion? Supervisor Moreno, second by Supervisor Runyon. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, floor resolution number 1 will now be 449, and a motion to bring floor resolution number 2.
Motion by Supervisor Runyon. We have a second by Supervisor Bean. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay, for resolution number 2 will now be resolution 450.
Any public discussion on resolutions? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one.
Yes.
Thank you. There's a resolution, there's 2 resolutions, 422, 441. This in relation to $150,000 spend from occupancy reserves to the Village of Lake George for some Christmas lights. What I'd like to do is propose a change to the resolution that it doesn't go into effect until the committee, which will meet, I believe, on Tuesday, has an opportunity to see the layout of what the plans are, as well as the ability to find some way to understand what the return on investment was. And I think it's very important for us to go forward with this. I think the village has a plan. It sounds good, but we haven't seen any details. And if I can get someone to second a motion from me to make that modification, then I would feel good going forward with this.
I
think-
422 and 441. To amend those, to say that they won't be in effect until the committee reviews the plan and approves.
And as you're discussing that, Mr. Chairman, one of the things, we had a tourism consultant come in and provide us some ideas and some insights. And one of the main recommendations was to develop return on investments for our spends. I mentioned at the last committee meeting that we really need to look at the return on investment, find a way to do that. So I think I'd like to put it on the recipients of this $150,000 to give us an idea how they might measure that as compared to prior years.
We have a motion. You have a question? William?
I got a question. Can I ask a question? That resolution's for lights. If you could tell me how we can get what the benefit of those lights are and show me how to get those numbers, I will do it. But it's almost important when lights go on, how do you know how many people are looking at the lights?
Isn't it, if I may respond, isn't it, occupancy tax a way to promote tourism? So we need to find some way to measure it.
Well,
I don't know, the village is normally, not very busy in the wintertime. I see where the idea is to be able to attract more visitors in our off season. Just how do we find a way to measure whether it was success or not? Because next year it could be another 150,000 or more.
Supervisor Cressida.
Just want to comment. The light's already up there, so the project's moving. You're welcome to go up and take a look. I can't speak for the village. I'm not speaking for the mayor, but I'm involved in a little bit. A return, ROI is a great measure. How do you measure it when it's free? It's free to enter it. So you hope that enough people come up, whether local or from out of town, and visit our stores and restaurants and make the whole area busier. I know that light up the village, when that happens, the village is packed for the night. So yeah, you're asking to calculate an ROI. How do you calculate an ROI on something that's free and hard to measure? and probably won't even get a ticket, when they walk through that gate. We could do that, but how do you measure that? I'm with you, but how do you measure that?
So if I may comment, then why do it? We can't measure it.
Because
It's just, it's purely just, it's an investment, right?
it's
We
an,
must have some sense
it's
of
an
what the
investment.
value is to the village and to the county.
it's an investment on a broader picture. It's not so much an investment right on the way it sits right there. It brings people to the area. This free event that we've invested in hopefully brings people far, to the area in itself to spend money and create commerce.
It's just, as I may, it's just
Okay,
a continuation of the fact that what we do with occupancy tax,
Right.
we're not necessarily measuring our return on investment with what we spent.
Excuse me.
I don't think,
You're making a motion to basically table this?
No, not to table it. I think that there's a timing situation here going forward. So they need the money. So I'm just saying, let's bring it back to the tourism committee so that committee can take a look at whatever there might be a way to measure return on investment.
Does anybody want to second Mr. Wild's motion? Seeing none, let's move on.
We need more business people on the board.
Supervisor Runyon,
I'm the biggest business person on the board.
excuse me. Supervisor Runyon.
I would just like to say, when I met with Heather last week, we discussed the return on investment and the fact that it's basically an impossible thing to do. I was a tourist here once. If I stayed in a hotel for 2 weeks and I went to 10 of these events, there's no way you could figure out how much my hotel room went to each event. The only way you can measure it is to look at a specific period of time this year to last year. Are you better off or worse off? That's really the only thing you can measure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
Discussion on any other resolutions? Anybody wish to talk about any other resolution? Supervisor Paget, what resolution?
I'll just share that I do share Mr. Wild's concerns on the $150,000. It was kind of put forth a little bit late in the year. I guess my question is, can the $150,000 be spent better in the county? And I don't have the answer to that, but we certainly want to encourage commerce in Lake George Village in the shoulder seasons. It's 2 months, right, that the lights will be there.
No, I'll be there for a while.
It's a difficult and challenging thing. I don't know. The only reason I didn't second the motion is just because it seems like it's a time crunch, and to bring it back to committee is going to be a challenge for them to come up with a realistic, solid answer in that regard. I completely understand where he's going and his thoughts on this particular resolution and other resolutions that are similar that we keep having these conversations on. Thank you.
Okay, any discussions on any other resolution? Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, it's just the same resolution, and I have discussion on other resolutions, but I'm picturing this as a way to bring people up to the Lake George region at a time when things are pretty quiet. I mean, if you take a look, if you got kids or grandkids, you know what I'm talking about. If you go up Route 9, Round Lake, you'll see the quick response. I'm sure some of you have driven from Queensbury all the way down there to see quick responses light show. The kids love it. Families love it. I'm picturing the same thing for Queensbury. Now, I do appreciate Supervisor Wild's empirical analysis approach. However, I don't think in all instances it can easily apply, such as this one. But I think it's a good expenditure. It will bring people up to Lake George, which is what we want. Will they be staying in hotels because of this? No, I doubt it. Will they be eating in the restaurants, filling their gas cars up with gas at the gas station, shopping at the outlets since they're up here? Yeah, I think so. So I think there is a benefit to this.
Okay, thank you.
But when you get on to other resolutions, I got
Supervisor Wild.
Just one more with that, Mr. Chairman. It just came to mind that between our tourism department and the Lake George Chamber, there are cell phone data records, there are credit card records there's a way to measure if people are coming here from out of the area. And maybe that's just what we look for going forward. But I'll be saying it over and over again, if we can't measure it, then why are we doing it?
Thank you. Any discussions on any other resolutions? Supervisor Stroud?
Yes, I just want to see if I understand it correctly. I'm talking about 431, 432, and 433. The way I look at it is 431 is rescinding our county board of supervisors legislative act of 513 of 2022. And at the same time, affirming number 300 to 2024, where we voided this allocation. Okay, that's the way I'm reading 431. 432 approves an allocation of ARPA funding that was already taken away by resolution 300 to 2024. This is asking to give it back. That's the way I'm interpreting it. But it's giving back funding, ARPA funding, that is a situation I'm not comfortable with. The allocation has been somewhat swelled by events surrounding it, and it looks like we're appearing to give a special accommodation to a county employee. Now, 433 rescinds number 595 of 2022, which I interpret as affirming what this board did in unanimously affirming 300 of 2024. That's I'm trying to gather an understanding of those three resolutions. If I'm off, please point that out to me. If I'm on, well, then move on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
Larry, would you?
If we, with all due respect to the supervisor from Queensberry, without the commentary, the core of the statement was correct. 431 rescinds the resolution from 2022. It clears the books and cleans the books from 2022 for the $30,000 award to ADK Excursions. 433 does the same for the second resolution from 2022, which was awarding $19,000 to ADK Excursions. The resolution in between 432 is the one of the two resolution requests that came out of the committee. And that request is seeking for the board to vote and determine whether to reissue that $30,000 amount to ADK Excursions.
Well, I think that's pretty close to the way I saw it too.
Okay. Any other comments on any other Supervisor McGowan?
Since we're talking about those, obviously I will be abstaining from the vote.
Are you recusing yourself from that?
No, I'm abstaining from the vote.
There's nothing.
There's no abstention.
There's
it's
no
recusal.
abstentions. It's either recuse or not recuse.
Then I won't recuse
And Larry?
because I'm confused. Did anybody watch the finance and budget when this came up and the explanation of the extra 19,000? Since I voted for this, not having the crystal ball, all right, of knowing that, you know, down the line, they were gonna use this and, you know, obviously somebody in this room, which has been recused of me getting, it was redacted from my FOIL request of who filed this complaint, but this whole process is a mountain out of a molehill. All right, but I stood up and I took the heat. All right, because I guess everybody, and I was kind of shocked of the votes that went around this room, even though I wasn't in it. I didn't hear one no. There wasn't one question. It was voted on a resolution that nobody knew what was going to be in the resolution. And then the resolution comes out and it was just, I was flabbergasted. But does anybody know the reasoning how there's a 30,000 and a 19 is my question? Does anybody know? The simple yes, no question from the supervisors and the chair.
Went through the committee that way.
But so nobody knows. So can I explain how this all happened?
Mr. Chair. Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
I'm sorry, Supervisor. Groves.
Yeah, I'm not sure you want to get into personal issues with
No.
this.
It's
But
not a
the-
personal
but the-
issue.
but the
It's how the
committee-
money came about.
The committee spent an extended executive session discussing this. Perhaps you could have been at that executive session as a supervisor. So to give a public perception that the committee voted on something that we had no idea why we did it is false. Plain and simple.
Fine.
Any other comments on any other resolution? Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, I have, I'd like to talk on, 424. Resolution 424. Removing the performance plans that was established in 2019. Right, the county administrator requested to remove the performance plans based on a rationale that corporations have largely removed this performance tool. However, we all sit here at the County Board of Supervisors talking about things related to our town and county government. The fact is, federal employers are required for performance work plans. All right, the majority of the counties in New York State provide performance evaluations for their employees, especially those out of unit and appointed positions. In fact, in 2015, we started this process in which the entire board agreed upon the value of these tools in order to determine the rationale behind raises. So here we are sitting here today with thousands of dollars of raises in our employees, and yet we do not have one single performance plan to tie their raises in with these increases. Without this guiding tool, we are playing a game of who is most popular. And while I recognize that our county administrator meets every few months with the department heads, the last time I checked, the county administrator is appointed by this board of supervisors. We, by the very nature of our name and our title, are tasked with the responsibility to spend tax money wisely and to be fair without any type of favoritism. Yet these raises do not have justifications attached, nor do they evaluate by the members of the board, at the very least in a committee discussions. The sheet for proposed raises came out at the heels of the budget meeting, and frankly, I can't imagine that our residents will feel like we are being responsible for their tax dollars when honestly, some salary increases over 25% all the way to 50% over the last 10 years, including our raises that passes today, or if it passes today. So I am requesting from the county administrator and the county treasurer to go back and look back 10 years to compare every position included in this budget and with the raises, including and not limited to department heads, etc. I trust this is going to be able to obtain this report. I understand this is work in an annual performance in a mid-year performance plan. This is a standard practice. This is a standard practice for local, state, and federal governments. yet we sit here removing a 2019 policy that took 4 years to get in place. And I can't wrap my head around why we are talking about raising taxes, but we sit here handing out incredible increases in pay on top of the fact that we have zero parameters in place to evaluate the performance of our leadership teams here at the county. One I would thought perhaps having these plans in place will help to support the raises when asked for. That was really the purpose from the start, to tie these tools in to the budget process to clearly be able to evaluate performance. And I remember sitting in this room back with Brian Moore and that, having the performance evaluations with the department heads, the committees, sitting across and asking how they have, have done their reports on theirs, and then, and what we feel of going on. I haven't seen that in a while now. So without rescinding this, I don't think is a good idea without having something in place to in place of this performance value. To just completely take it out, which is totally wrong. It was told that only 12% of the corporations do that. We're not a corporation. We're a public identity. We work for the people. All right, we get paid by the people, and we have to answer to the people. So I would ask for this resolution to be pulled from the vote.
Anybody feel the same way? Is that a motion to table it?
No.
Withdraw it?
Oh, table it. I'd like to table it for more.
Withdraw it or table? What are you,
Table.
what are you asking for?
I'd like to table it. I'd like to see that we have another plan in place before we take this one out.
Are you tabling? Because we need to know what we're tabling it to.
Are you tabling it for a month? Are you tabling it to committee? What do you?
I would like to table it until we have another performance evaluation
We
in
can't
place.
table it. We don't table things indefinitely, so we need to know where you want to table it to. Do you want to table it for a month and bring it back towards boards? Do you want to withdraw it and bring it back when there's an?
Well, I would say 2 months, because, it's gonna take that long probably to figure it out.
For the January regular board meeting?
Go with the January regular board meeting.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second to do that?
You all feel comfortable with this?
Seeing none? Well, let's move on. No second. Any other discussion on any other resolutions? Supervisor Runyon.
Thank you. I'm speaking about resolution 444 for adopting the budget for the fiscal year. I just want to say that I looked through it. I think our budget officer does an excellent job. And in fact, the rate is actually lower, not higher, despite the raises. And I would like to remind everybody that last year we voted to forego our raise. No supervisors here received a raise last year. We all voted not to get it. And I do feel that this year we should get it. We spend a lot of time. And we did forego last year. So I'm hoping everyone will vote to adopt the budget and include our raises.
Okay. Any other comments on the resolution? Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, 425. Kind of in the same reasoning of, so I won't go through my whole speech and my reading on this one, but removing the DEI requirements. I find this also very offensive, considering that, all right, we put a plan in place, and actually it goes back to 424. We put a plan in place that was recognized by NACO. Now, does anybody know what NACO is and what they stand for? I'm taking that everybody has an understanding what that is. All right. So Warren County was recognized for policy that we put together 424 and 425. And with the DEA. So right here, if anybody, wants to look up, we're taking away this training. All right. And, you know, this training has the following goals: to ensure that the state workforce represents the diversity of New York, established by the state as a competitive model for the employer in which a workplace is an inclusive environment where every employee can thrive. So it was brought up in the committee, which again, nobody spoke up in committee on this, no questions. All right. That they couldn't find a model that fit us. But yet, New York State, there's a website on this program. And it's the Governor's Office of Diversity. They have a department down there on this. So state has a diversity model, but Warren County can't find one to work. I have a question with that. So now you want to take that away. So the way I'm looking at it with 424 and 425, have at it, everyone, because you know what? No accountability anymore. You can skip right through and we're not going to watch it. That's what I feel by getting away with this. So I just can't believe that nobody in committee even had a question on this, because I watched it. I watched it twice. And I reached out to a few people, you know, to talk about it, but it's just, but yet we don't have a problem coming down on another supervisor, but yet the employees can just do whatever they want. So thank you very much.
Hey. Any other discussion? Supervisor Patton?
Yeah, I just have a question on going back 431, 432 and 433, just so I want to make sure I understand this 100%. Essentially, we're taking away the 30 grand from ADK excursions. We're giving it back to them potentially if all votes pass. And then we are taking away the 19. So as it pertains to this case, if all three of these resolutions were to pass, the end result would be a reduction of $19,000 to ADK excursions.
Technically, you're not taking anything away by resolutions 431 and 433, because as a matter of law, the findings by this board that a supervisor had an interest in the contract voided those contracts. So 431, which is seeking to rescind, and 433, which is also seeking to rescind, is clearing the books, with the concept being that the board can then consider whether to reissue that money. And the one resolution that's in front of the board is 432, which is for the $30,000. And that contract would be retroactive back to 2022. But because as a matter of law, under state law, the contract was automatically voided as if it was never entered into, the board is not taking away what the law requires in the state of New York, which was the voiding of the contract that resulted from the two resolutions in 2022. I hope that, I don't want to be splitting hairs, but it's very important that it's stated properly and correctly.
Right.
I mean, you can,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to say it's housekeeping, right? Because that would be a judgment. But in essence, 431 and 433 is cleaning up and straightening up the books so that the board can then consider 432 and whether to issue the award for $30,000.
That answers my question. Essentially, the committee made a decision not to allow the applicant to reapply for the 19. Based on the merits of the case, which are confidential.
No, I think that the way I would, as the county attorney, I would say is that 434 was a proposed resolution for this board to consider reissuing the $19,000. And that was not approved by a majority vote of the committee.
Thank you.
And there is no 434. The missing resolution or that fourth resolution was not voted out of committee.
Request for roll call votes, Supervisor Wild.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd like, roll call on, 422 and 441. But I also want to go back to 431, 432 and 433. And this is for the supervisors that weren't present during this. I, as well as others, were on the ARPA committee to figure out how to distribute this money. And it was, this one specifically was specifically debated for some time. There was a section in the ARPA law that allowed us to provide some of that money to local businesses that were adversely affected by the COVID pandemic. Unfortunately, we really didn't get any applications. This one troubled me because we could not vet whether or not this one versus some other businesses might be more worthy of this. And secondarily, it's come to me and the board that at least one supervisor who was on that committee was also a personal friend of one of the owners of this.
Point of order.
And
Point of order.
I think
I wasn't on the committee.
Excuse me. Supervisor Wild,
Thank you.
finish your comments.
There were others on there that I believe also had personal relationships, which gave me some heartburn. I voted no when this first came about in front of the board because of my questions and issues and concerns. And I'm probably going to vote no on redoing it again because of the fact that I voted no to begin with. So I just wanted to let you know my perspective on how this went down. And it was contentious, to say the least.
Any other roll call votes? Supervisor McGowan, you have a roll call vote?
Well, can I make a comment on, I don't sit on the, I didn't sit on the
think
ARPA
we've talked
committee.
about this one enough. It's been discussed in committee.
No, if he's gonna put stuff out there, you know, I just like to comment, I didn't sit on the committee. And this is where the mountain out of the molehill came.
Okay, okay.
All right, but I will ask for a roll call on 424, 425, 433, 446, and 447.
Okay. Any other roll call requests? Supervisor Drift.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I request a roll call vote on resolution 419 so that I can recuse myself from that vote and I'll exit the room?
Are you going to recuse yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion on resolution? Supervisor Patrick?
Just one last question on 422, not specifically on the resolution, because I brought this point up in the committee meeting. Does the Warren County Board of Supervisors anticipate, I forget the exact name, Winter Stream coming back the next year on what would it be, the 25-26 season? Do we have a definitive answer at all on if they're gonna come back?
No. Don't believe. So.
It's too different.
Hmm?
Too difficult.
Okay.
Could I just ask Amanda to go through the additional roll call vote for me, please?
The additional roll call votes, I have 422, 424, 425, 433, 446, 447, and then 490.
You don't really know.
Thanks.
Are we ready to vote on resolution? No, we're not.
No, it's gonna take a few minutes.
Okay, we're gonna take a little recess. Oh. Okay. Does anybody need to recuse themselves from any votes other than 419 by Ben? Anybody else ask for any, has to recuse? Nobody? Okay, you need a few minutes?
For now. Yes. I don't. I have a whole bunch I can set up on the third screen. We're down on front of the voice and left. It's not good. We're doing it. But if you give me a couple minutes.
We need- certainly it's a couple minutes to get
Just a
our.
while, this is all your fault. It goes all in trouble.
Take a
Do it.
5 minute recess, okay?
Dave.
I won't do it.
Ron, I thought this was gonna be Apple.